This is Star Radio UK.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
The best radio show.
In your car.
At work.
At home.
On your smartphone.
This is Star Radio UK. This is Star Radio UK.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BEBE Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BEBE Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome once again to the BEBE Means Business show. Really good to see you, and thank you so much for tuning in again today. Hope you enjoyed last week's show. Today we're going to have something slightly different, but just to give you a bit of introduction, if you're joining us for the very first time, although if you are, I don't know why you would be joining for the first time, because you should have been here. This is the show where we to talk about everything to do with money and finance and wealth creation and leaving a legacy, and we are crazy about business and entrepreneurship on this show. I'm your host. I'm here every week, BEBE Clement, and I run a group of companies alongside my husband. I'm also the author of, thankfully, 2 books now, How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur, and this is my latest book, Wealth Creation, God's Way, which you'll be hearing a lot more about in the book corner later in the show. Those of you who are regular listeners, you know that we have a book corner, because I'm really hot on us increasing our financial literacy and getting to know a lot more than we do about how money works, what we're supposed to do with it, how to grow it, how to protect it, and how to leave it as a legacy for generations to come. Now, last year, somebody sent me something. It was a video that really got my interest, because people are always sending me stuff that they think would be of value to me. But this video really got my interest. I want to show it to you. Here we go, guys.
Hi, I'm Ife.
Hi, I'm EMEKA and her big brother.
And together we run Chukwu's, the world's first Nigerian tapas restaurant.
And we need your help.
We opened our restaurant 3 years ago.
Just 5 weeks before the pandemic.
Since then, we've been named one of the best restaurants in London. We've had rave reviews from you about our dishes like our plantain waffles, and we've welcomed thousands of guests from London to Leicester and Lagos to New York.
But we must admit, we're struggling to keep our doors open.
We're proud to have shared our Nigerian culture with so many of you, and we want to keep the celebration of our culture going right here on Tottenham's High Road.
That's why we're launching the Chukwu's 6-week charge.
From 31st of October to 11th of December, we're asking you to do one thing.
Book a table.
Our goal is 600 bookings over the next 6 weeks.
That's 100 bookings per week.
So we can continue to give you great food and great vibes all the way into 2023.
So book a table and join the Chukwu's 6-week charge.
So as you know, I sometimes do a series where we celebrate young entrepreneurs. And I do that because, you know, if I had known 30 years ago what I know now, I probably wouldn't be where I am now. I'd have gone a lot further. And so I'm always in awe of young entrepreneurs who get to grips with their purpose early in life, and they start pursuing it and they do it. So I always want to celebrate them and see what I can do to be a part of their success story in any way. So it gives me great joy and great pride to welcome to the show IFEYINWA and EMEKA Chukwu. Yay! Hi guys.
Hi, how are you?
We're very well. We're very well done. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Good.
Okay, cool.
The restaurant is warm, so we're
oh, it is.
We're not dealing with the cold. That's great.
It's Lagos temperature in here.
Okay. All right, guys. So I want to go back to the beginning. First of all, I got a few questions for you. So tell us your background, family, stuff like that. Did you guys grow up here, or did you grow up in Nigeria?
We grew up. Oh.
Yeah. No, it's just really funny because well, one of our interview questions is actually this: we really like to get to know whoever's bringing into our team. Beyond obviously like CV, so I kind of felt like on the other foot. But yeah, so just for context, my name is EMEKA, and this is my younger sister IFEYINWA, and we both grew up in the border of East London and Essex in a little town called Ilford, and that was where we kind of learned about our Nigerian heritage growing up in the household of our mom. And also going back and forth to our grandmother's home, and we're just regaled with stories of Nigeria, and you know, some of those quite really positive and beautiful stories that they share.
Okay, cool. So this is you've learned all that you know about Nigeria from your mother and your grandmother?
No, I think that was I guess like our introduction. But everything that we now know today, I think there's also been like what we call self-study. So even with the restaurant, EMEKA and I are very clear with guests that come and also team members that we are nothing close to experts of Nigerian culture, but what we consider ourselves are like students. And we kind of just delve into our own interests. Like for example, EMEKA has a big interest in like sustainability and agribusiness, and so he'll send articles about, oh, did you know this, like how much cassava Nigeria produces, or about rice farming. And I'm like really big on like the theatre and the arts, so sometimes when I'm kind of like delving and exploring more about Nigerian culture, it might be from more of that sort of angle. But it was very much, I think, there was always that challenge when you grow up as part of the diaspora, like of what amount of your culture or what level of pride in your culture gets passed on to you. And I think basically from the way our parents and our nene, our maternal grandmother, kind of like spoke to us about Nigeria, there was always a sense of pride and also curiosity about this place that we were from, and that we fortunately had the opportunity to go to, but in the sense of like, you know, wanting to know more and wanting and being able to see its beauty from the stories that we were told.
Okay. Do you guys go there often?
Yeah, we do. Especially as when we were younger, we didn't go as frequently. It's sometimes, as you can imagine, quite costly to travel as a large family. But as or as independent young adults, we've had the opportunity to travel a lot more. We both have friends based in Nigeria. And so yeah, it's great to go and visit friends, go explore more things around our own personal interests, but also things related to the business as well, and just kind of connect with some of the stories that our grandmother, our great aunties kind of share with us, our mum shares with us, and actually just then going and having our own perspective on things, and also our own perspective on maybe the situation and the scenarios in current times versus maybe how they have seen it from several decades hence.
Yeah. Do you find that there's a disparity between the way that Nigeria is portrayed in the Western media and what it's really like when you go there?
That's a great question, because it was one of the things we wrestled with, and one of the reasons we kind of started the restaurant. I think one of the things I found out is there's actually not too much of a portrayal, and actually that's almost as challenging, because it allows or it leaves people to fill in the gaps without kind of having the actual any substantiated knowledge. And so, for example, when people talk about Nigerian food, actually just the sheer lack of knowledge means that they then jump to certain conclusions which aren't necessarily the case. But then at the same time, I think what gets shared about Nigeria, I don't think the portrayal is actually often inaccurate, but it's often only shown one side. And as I said, that then lack of knowledge of people of the rounded situation, and I say situation to also discuss rounded culture, rounded stories of Nigeria. It means that people then fill in the gaps and say, oh well, this is the only thing I've ever heard about it, so this is the only thing that it could be. Actually, so much more. And I must admit, this is also for the diaspora as well, right? Because you can also have your own what's the word? So where knowledge base, or where you're getting that knowledge of Nigeria could be maybe just from one individual. A parent who knows that country from 30, 40 years ago. And actually, so as I said, with IFE and I, it's very much an active study, really trying to understand various things. And also, that's the one, I forgot this key part, of your own culture from Nigeria. So obviously, it's someone who is Yoruba, but then who's their family grew up in a main city, is also will maybe have a kind of a different knowledge of or different take on Nigerian cuisine from a Yoruba person who's based in a coastal town. If you go from a different ethnic group. So one of the things we try to do with the restaurant, and one of our purposes, is actually debunking myths, unpacking Nigeria heritage, cultures, plural, for those who are of different backgrounds, i.e. from non-Nigerian backgrounds, but also for those of a Nigerian background, to kind of enrichen our own understanding, education. And as if I said, we are not experts, we learn and then share back and learn more and continue to share in that way.
Perfect. Okay, just to let my viewers know that IFE and EMEKA are actually in their restaurant, so you can see some guys coming in and out. So that's
sorry about that. We just had a sleep.
Okay. Money doesn't sleep, guys. So Okay. All right. Can you tell me a little bit about your academic background?
Yeah, I love school. I'm not gonna lie. As in, I love studying. I love learning. So what we do now really suits me. Funny enough, at 16 to 18, I was convinced I was going to go to dance college, and that was my focus. I was like, yeah, absolutely going to dance college. And then I had a conversation with my mum, who she didn't. In my mum's defense, she never talked me out of going.
Okay.
She said I had the sort of academics that would allow me to go to like the best of the best university. So she was just saying, why not go do uni first, and then you can still do dance college. And she actually gave me a really important nugget of information that I do sit with still. And because she never actually told me I couldn't go. I think that was really important. She never told me I couldn't go, and she never poo-pooed the idea. She just questioned the order in which I was going to do things.
Okay.
One thing that she did say to me is that sometimes you love something and you're really passionate about it, but when you make it your career, it changes that.
That's true.
To this day, I'm actually really glad I never went down being a professional dancer route, because I think she would have been right. I loved it, but I don't think I would have enjoyed it in the way I still do now if I'd made it my career path. So
what did you study?
I went to university and I studied classics. So I studied that's like the civilizations of ancient Rome and ancient Greek. So I did ancient history, ancient philosophy, Latin, and ancient Greek, and I absolutely loved it. I loved Latin all through school, and ancient philosophy is something that I fell in love with at university, and it's stuck with me since. For those who may not know much about ancient philosophy, a big component of it is Stoic philosophy, which often says, like, try not to hold judgment about things and just kind of be patient and see how things pan out. And a lot of kind of today's modern day self-help books and also modern day psychotherapy is underpinned by like Stoic philosophy.
Okay.
So it's really great. And then after university, I'd wanted to do French for my degree, but I was a bit too nervous about that. So I promised myself that I would go and move to a French-speaking country. And so after university...
Where did you go to university?
I went to university. I went to university at Cambridge. I went to Cambridge University, much to my mum's delight. She told the postman.
Our family.
Mum was really telling everyone. I remember the day Mum told the postman. So after my career at Cambridge, I took a year out and I moved to Martinique, which is a French-speaking island in the Caribbean. And I was there teaching English and perfecting my French. And then after that, I moved to France and then came back to London, and here I am doing Chikus.
EMEKA, what did you do?
I actually left Ilford at 13, and I went to boarding school down in a city called Winchester, down on the kind of like south coast. So I was there for my formative years. It was like fantastic experience. Just actually a real growth opportunity, as I was very much out of my comfort zone, and it was at the same time it was very much an adventure. And following that, I then went to study economics at university. I loved maths, really enjoyed economics. And I initially paired it with Spanish, but my Spanish, as much as I love it, wasn't as good as my maths and my economics. So I put that to one side and focused on that, and that was just getting my degree in those studies. But I promised myself that if I had secured myself a job by the time I got into my final year, that I would then line up a year abroad in Spain. To go and actually just learn and enjoy speaking Spanish. So that's what I did. Finished my studies, had a job lined up to go and be a management consultant, and so took the year abroad, went to Spain, enjoyed myself, got my Spanish up to a really good level, and then came back to start working in the City of London, where I was a strategy consultant. As Ife mentioned, I ended up focusing on sustainability strategy. I did that for a number of years before leaving that to come and start Chukus with Ife. Okay.
Wow, well done, guys. Well done. How do you think how do I put this? Do you draw, and if you do, to what extent do you draw on your academic background for what you guys do now? Do you think it has been useful? Because the reason why I asked that question is because I sometimes come across young people who start out in a particular field academically, but that's really not their passion. But they feel because that's what they know or that's what they've studied, they kind of get stuck in that. And they think it would just be too much hassle to go start over. But how much do you think you guys have drawn from your academic background or your experiences in the success of your company?
So it's funny because I actually wrote something about this recently for my alumni magazine, and I won't speak for EMEKA, but for me, I think a lot. I think it's a bit like, you know, when someone is moving field in a job and you're talking about transferable skills. So, I mean, let's be clear, my Latin is not helping at all in running the restaurant of Chuku's. I'm not using that. But I think, for example, that especially my ancient philosophy, a lot of that kind of like critical thinking and thinking through a problem is something that I think very much still applies. And for me, so at Cambridge, you do an essay a week. Very intense, and you don't really get much guidance. You kind of throw in this long reading list, which you're not supposed to read it all, and it's a lot of like finding things out for yourself. And I think after doing like an essay a week for 3 years, never really knowing where I'm beginning, what I think I got quite comfortable at is beginning when you don't know what you're doing, and that's essentially what I think running a business is like. On like 3 years in, I know slightly more than I did before, but there's a whole heap of other things now that I don't know how to do that we want to do and we've got to go and figure out. And I think for me, my academic experience, I guess, has left me with the confidence to say, okay, I don't necessarily know what I'm doing right now, but I can trust that I can probably figure it out. And and also it sounds like quite a small, it maybe sounds like a small thing, but I've noticed like one of my really good skills is actually being able to find information, and I think that comes from having to like scan like journals or books really like so often, and just like trying to find the key information that you're looking for to be able to deliver on that essay. So sometimes when we're looking for something in the restaurant or there's something we want to go and do and not quite sure, I find that I'm quite good at being able to like, okay, I've been able to find the article that will give us some information to go on to the next step. And then I think the other thing is, I think that both the travelling and also where I went to university means that I'm very comfortable in a number of spaces. I'm very comfortable, and I think particularly with hospitality, you need to be very comfortable talking to all different types of people and recognise that everyone comes from different backgrounds that might not match with your own life experiences. And I sometimes meet people that don't necessarily have that capacity, and you can see how that has an impact. So yeah, I think those are ways in which it's helped me, but they're not necessarily like tangible. It's probably not as tangible as like, oh, because I learned this, I now do this in the restaurant.
Okay. Well, how did you guys get into the restaurant business in particular? First of all, why did you get into business? Why did you not go down the employment route long term? I know you guys have done some jobs, but why did you not stick with the employment route? And why did you go into the restaurant business in particular?
Yeah, I mean, so I was about to answer the question before, but basically I think it's a very, very quick answer, to be honest. This had a greater purpose and a greater pool. It was as simple as that. I think for me, I was very much enjoying where I was before. I very much enjoyed the work. I enjoyed my clients. I enjoyed the rigor of what I did. But when one looks at their life and has limited time, it's like, well, which project is going to be feeling more rewarding, more purposeful? If I look back in 30 years' time and say, well, I did that, and I thought at that time that Chuku's, and I still do, was the project that would be the one I would like to make the centre, rather than continuing down the consulting route. And I think I speak for Ife in a sense that we had a conversation. So as I mentioned, I'm a couple of years older than her, and so she was away in I think France at the time, and considering coming back to London to start on a grad scheme. And I said, she wasn't too sure, and I said, well, look, just continue traveling and continue exploring until there's something which is of a great enough purpose to make you feel magnetically attracted back to the UK, and if not, then just continue exploring yourself so you can find that person. And I suppose then when we kind of floated the idea of Chukwu's, there was enough of a draw to bring her back, and there was enough of a draw to take me out from where I was doing, and then we ended up doing this.
Okay. So why did you pick the restaurant business?
So,
Okay.
So America and I kind of talk about this, and I know some people kind of approach business from like, oh, they're going to start a business or they're going to start this, and that was never really mine and Emeka's way, and both of us say it's long and it's very hard, and we wouldn't be doing this if we weren't doing Chukwu's. So for us it wasn't, oh, we chose to start a business or we chose to start our restaurant businesses. We chose to start Chukwu's, and it was, we specifically had this idea about creating a Nigerian restaurant that was going to celebrate our culture, celebrate our heritage, invite others to share in that culture, but also for it to be a place that the diaspora could be proud of. And we wanted to kind of go beyond food and bring people together and celebrate the entirety of, I guess, where we're from. And that was the idea, and so that's what we did. But I don't.
So the restaurant was just the vehicle for it.
Sorry, say that again?
The restaurant was just the vehicle for it?
Yeah, and so I don't think if someone had positioned to us, do you want to start a pizza business?
Right.
We would have just been like, nah, Emeka would have stayed and work, and I would have continued traveling. It was very much the specifics of what we're creating. That is what we want to do. And I think importantly, it needed to be that because, I mean, let's not lie, we started the brand 7 years ago, 7 years today.
Oh yeah,
7 years today.
Tell us.
7 years.
And so we're not really knowing the day.
Not really jumping for joy as the tiredness of the last 7 years kicks in.
But it's been really tough, and I'll put my hands up and say, if it wasn't for what I believed we were doing and creating, I probably would have just tapped out and just gone into the city and got my 28 days holiday and my night salary. But it's very much about the specifics of what we believed. And what we believe, rather, that we are creating and what we wanted to celebrate. And as Emeka mentioned, I think the purpose, that is very much the driver beyond saying like, oh, we're starting a business or having a restaurant. Is what we're doing with Chukwu's specifically. That is what is I think has kept us both here.
Yeah, what us here and what's kept us here. Absolutely.
Good. Okay, we're going to take a break in a minute, but just before we do, I just wanted to ask, because I'm not very sophisticated. What exactly is a tapas bar or a tapas restaurant?
Yeah. So I think we'll start talking about tapas first of all. So tapas is a way of dining. Typically, you have sharing plates. So instead of having your own individual plate, you would have a plate which you would share with a person that you want to eat out with, by the nature, and then as a result, you then have multiple plates rather than just one individual dish, like one individual main each. But then what then happens is, just so the word tapas is a Spanish word, and these kind of tapas restaurants, tapas bars are popular in Spain, very popular in Spain. However, that way of dining, of a sharing kind of plates, isn't solely unique to Spain. Other cultures have it, and I would even go as far to say that some of the way that we kind of often dine at Nigerian functions is of a kind of similar ilk. We use the word tapas simply because it encapsulated everything that I'm about to say, which starts off with the sharing plates. But then what then happens is, by the very nature of sharing your food with someone, you break down certain barriers which you might have had if you had your own individual plate, where you have this whole element of this is mine and this is yours, and we don't cross those lines. And you probably know this just from the case of when you've gone out to eat, maybe with a partner or whatever, and you said, you try this, and then you both have an understanding of what each other's eating, and it enriches an opportunity for conversation and relationships to build. And by doing that, that then lends to a boisterous atmosphere because everybody is now not quietly talking. Everyone is comfortable and leaning in, and involved in a conversation, and so it becomes quite an inclusive and warm place. That is what happens while eating in a tapas way. That was actually what happened. Was we described the place that we wanted to create, which was we wanted people to feel this kind of warmth. We wanted them to have this kind of rich conversation, which lends to fostering even better relationships. People, come in and be feeling that they can actually tell their friend their whole story. We wanted people to be inclusive. We wanted people to be able to look at someone next to them who is not the person they came to dine with, but then to ask them a question: "What are you eating?" And we wanted to have all that. And when we described all of that, it then lent itself to what actually I think there's this way of dining that we've seen in another country, which then also marries very much so with how hospitality is in Nigeria. Hospitality is actually you go to someone's house and they're trying to shove food down you. You must eat. And the way we have a boisterous atmosphere, and the way there'll be an array of dishes. So we thought, okay, well, we want to do all this, and instead of spending 5 minutes each time explaining what we're trying to do, let's just try and find this one word. And that was the way we went with the word tapas. But that's what it is.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break right now. You can call in with any questions. If you're a young person and you're thinking of going into business, or you've already started a business and you need some advice, feel free to call in. As you know, our number is 07539 661754. That number again, that's 07539 661744. Or if you're joining us on Facebook, then just put your questions in the chat. Our Twitter handle is @StarRadioUK, or you can text or WhatsApp us on the number that I've just given you. We'll be back in a minute with the Chukus, so don't go away. See you soon.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur, and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business, but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the BB Means Business Show. And today we are celebrating young entrepreneurs. And I have the pleasure of having Ife and Emeka Chukwu on the show. And they are the business owners of Chukwu's restaurant, tapas restaurant. And just before the break, Emeka was explaining to us what a tapas restaurant is, and my knowledge has definitely increased. So yeah, that's where we're at this afternoon. During the break, you would have seen the flyer for the women's breakfast that I'm hosting in March. Please sign up to that if you're a woman in business and you need to do some networking, and of course you do need to do some networking. So sign up for that. The details are there on the screen, and they'll be running across the screen later on in the show. So we're back with Emeka and Ife. So is your food from all over Nigeria, or have you picked a particular part of Nigeria and you're promoting that their food?
Great question. So just going back to, I mean, obviously those who've just joined in maybe haven't heard the full interview, but we were talking about how we want to go about sharing Nigerian cuisine and culture for those who are not of a Nigerian background, but also for those who are of a Nigerian background, and share the try to share the diversity that really is so rich in Nigeria. And so we haven't picked one place in particular. We've tried to initially show that the diversity. I say initially because there's only so much one can do with we have about 14 sharing plates. So there's a lot more that we would like to share. But for example, we've actually, like in recent trips to Nigeria, gone to the north, we've gone to the east to learn more about the cuisines that are eaten in those areas, which aren't from where our ethnic group is based, and is also not where much of the diaspora, being predominantly Yoruba, southwestern regions, are from as well. So it actually gives us great pleasure to not only just share some of the dishes with those who are from non-Nigerian background who will go, oh, I've never tried this before, but also those who are from the diaspora who say, oh, they've never tried certain dishes that we have on our menu, because it's not from it's not what they would cook at home, or not what they grew up eating either.
Okay, cool. Do you guys do all the cooking yourselves?
We started off doing all the cooking ourselves. We now have a team. I just say, because obviously today is, as if I mentioned, the anniversary of our first ever pop-up back in January 2016, and cooking for that was a very wild occasion.
You think you cooked until you're trying to cook for countless.
Yeah, and Ife and I were just going at it. I remember going to bed that night, having chopped red onion, Scotch bonnet, and ginger all by hand, and like my hands were just absolutely burning. We did the meat, but it was a lot. We've now, fortunately, especially to do the restaurant, we have a team. We couldn't
and
do
a commercial kitchen, which makes it difficult.
Yeah, trying to do it at home was pretty difficult. We are fully fledged professional restaurant with a team and a commercial kitchen.
Does Mum ever come in to help?
Pardon?
Does Mum ever come in to help?
No, she's a regular diner. As much as she actually helped in the pop-up days.
Everyone helps in the pop-up.
Yeah, in the pop-up days when we started off with ourselves and then volunteers who we're super grateful because they were very much part of our journey. Our mum got involved. Mum got involved as well. And now, fortunately, it's great to be able to have those same individuals as some of our most loyal diners. Our mum being one of them, and she has a cocktail named after her as well.
Oh, and what's that? What's it called?
It's called the Obi.
The Obi.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now there are a lot of young people listening at the moment. So could you just share some challenges that you've had that led up to the 6-week challenge? Yeah, just share some of the things that happened. Whose idea, first of all, was that 6-week challenge? Because I thought it was brilliant. Whose idea was it?
Yeah, I know this sounds cliche, but some of If and I's best ideas, and I suppose this is testament to what works well with us, is we come together with them. So, for example, we knew we needed to do something, and we actually started talking about this idea of doing a campaign back in 2021.
Yeah.
And we'll talk, and then we'll explain why it took so long, because it actually relates to the question because of the certain challenges that we had. And then we were talking about we need to do this thing, and we were bouncing off ideas. Okay, well, how many do we need to get? How many to kind of survive? What should be the names? And then literally we had like an email thread for the names in particular, going back and forth, chucking different things around, and finally landed on the word charge, and it just sounded so fitting because of the different ways that charge means. It's about electrifying something, charging it up with energy, or not necessarily electrifying, but energizing something. It's about coming together en masse, the community. It's about moving with pace, with urgency. And so when we landed on that, it was like, that's the one.
That's it.
In terms of the challenges, so because we didn't kind of give the background of the restaurant, we started as a pop-up 7 years ago, and then we spent 4.5 years site hunting, raising finance, refining the concept, learning more about the industry, learning what it took to kind of make a restaurant work. And through that, EMEKA and I were literally having cold calls, meets with other restaurateurs, working in the industry, reading everything, listening to everything.
Working in it.
And then we opened the permanent place, where we are today, in February 2020, which was 5 weeks before first lockdown. So when we're talking challenges, that has to date been our biggest challenge. I mean, we've
imagine, yeah,
for other restaurants, older restaurants, bigger restaurants, you know, even like better financed restaurants, we've seen those doors open and close. That was, and I guess that still lingers, the after effects of that still lingers, has been and was a very real challenge, because the first lockdown was difficult, but we reopened. But what happened in the opening, the closing, and the opening and closing, we just lost all the momentum that a new restaurant has. So normally when a restaurant first opens, there's a real buzz around it for at least a good few months. Lots of people get the opportunity to come in, try it, and you're able to establish yourselves. We didn't have that opportunity. We had 5 weeks of opening, and then it was stopped, and then it was back, and then it was stopped. And so by the time we're kind of getting into 2021, where 2021 is when I think we're reopening for the third or fourth time now. It's just not the same, and like and it's funny because guests used to come during that time, like, oh, you guys are really busy, and EMEKA and I would be like, this was not the restaurant that we saw when we first opened
or planned for,
and that kind of really killed our momentum. And then off the back of that, there are a whole heap of other challenges, after effects. One of the biggest ones being the hospitality staffing crisis. Yes, some of that is also Brexit, but then also just with so much level of uncertainty, a lot of people in the industry just retrained. You know, essentially their jobs were up in the air for the best part of 2 years. I mean, there were chefs that we hired just before the lockdown. When we reopened, they were like, "Yeah, we're electricians now." Like they're it's like I need something where it doesn't matter what's going on in the world, there's going to be some level of stability.
Yeah.
And that then meant that even if we were going to get the customers in, we didn't even have a team to kind of keep the restaurant going. And there were, especially as COVID was still there, 2021, there were days when we still had to close the restaurant because we didn't have enough people to staff it. EMEKA and I were on the floor every night. Sometimes, like there was significant periods of time where we were severely understaffed, but trying to just keep the restaurant going. And it wasn't just for us. Like I know that case in other restaurants where you know diners didn't necessarily know, but the restaurants have been and were suffering from that time, just like doing their best to keep the show going. Yes, those are two of the biggest challenges amongst many others.
Yeah, I think a couple that spring to mind, I'll just to lead from where if they finish, was the changing in customer, I would say, psyche. Just one, maybe the people obviously would come out were obviously not necessarily that confident in coming out to dine naturally. There was also then maybe a changing of the patterns. You know, people now, maybe some people who want to dine more at home, or now they're not going into work, so into the office so much. So that kind of Friday or Thursday or catch up after work meal wasn't really there because they were already at home. And then, am I really going to go outside when I'm in the evening to go out for a meal? Whereas you would do that if you were already outside because you were at work. So that actually then there was actually just a genuine thing where we felt a lot, and I think there's a lot in the industry. Many customers who thought they were always doing the restaurant a favor. So this idea of like booking and then not turning up or cancelling very last minute, and that was something which the industry really struggled with. Like late cancellations and no shows just literally went through the roof. And then there were also justified late cancellations because COVID was still very much there. So you know, people would have a situation where they wanted to dine out. One person in that group gets COVID. The partner obviously is like, well, I've been in contact with that person, and then all of a sudden, you know, that booking is gone, and that could be a booking for 6, 8, and so forth. So those are some of the challenges. And then obviously we're not insulated from the other economic challenges. The price rises have been difficult to take. we literally saw our oil price change by like 40% just like overnight. Changing in the meat products and all sorts. And another real challenge was just so at the back end, I believe it was 2021, there was the petrol crisis, and there was also the CO2 shortages as well. Now, CO2 shortage meant that we were struggling to get certain carbonated drinks that we use. I know we don't use pork in the restaurant, but I know that, for example, other industry restaurants will like struggle to get pork because it's used in the production of making pork meats. And then but the petrol crisis was really bad for us because it just meant that there was suppliers who just didn't have the drivers because of Brexit, because people had retrained and so forth. That was already short-staffed. And then with the petrol crisis, like the cost of doing certain delivery routes was no longer making it worthwhile. So we ended up, we were a huge account, we were a big account, maybe we were a bit more protected. But as a small independent restaurant, we were dropped by several suppliers, and all of a sudden it's like, well, you don't have the supply, you're short-staffed, and you're struggling to get customers.
Yeah.
And those customers are also feeling the pinch because prices in their pocket are also going up. So it was a real, the whole COVID and situation had a really long tail of challenges, which I think is, as Ife mentioned, is still there in the background, but it's at least not as serious, as heightened as it was, especially 2021, beginning of 2022. It was a real difficult time, and actually, in some regards, being open and operating in that was more difficult than just being closed.
Interesting. You often don't realise those kind of challenges that are happening behind the scenes. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I'm so glad that you guys didn't throw in the towel and you just kept going. Like Winston Churchill, I think it was Winston Churchill who said, "When you're going through hell, just keep going." So I'm glad that you guys didn't throw in the towel. There was someone who said that sometimes entrepreneurs feel that they have to give us this image of success. So do you think that the 6-week charge made you feel vulnerable in any way? Or do you think that entrepreneurs who are experiencing such challenges or, are struggling, do you think they should ask for help? Or should they, keep up with this, keep till you make it kind of mindset?
So yeah, I've got quite strong views on the glamorization of entrepreneurship. And I fundamentally don't think it's helpful. I think what can actually happen is it can sell a dream to other people who only get to begin about what is to come, which can be ill-prepared. And I also don't think it's actually good for one's own mental health to pretend things are much, much better than they are. I believe quite strongly about people just being authentic and honest about their journeys. However, do I necessarily think people should always ask for help? I think you should always be looking for solutions, but repeating, for example, the charge might not be the right thing for someone else in another avenue. And also, I think it's also like what you're asking for. So, for example, there is another world where we could have come back out to people and said, look, can everyone give us like 50 quid each to help us keep going? But I don't think that would have been necessarily like the right thing for us to do. The kind of help we were asking for, so to speak, was, you guys love this place, so help us keep the doors open for you. So we keep
serving you, yeah.
So we can all continue to enjoy it. But during the charge did make us feel vulnerable in some way, because you don't know if people are gonna participate. So you didn't know necessarily how it was gonna go down and what the response was gonna be. And even though I believe in vulnerability and people being honest and authentic, it's never really nice to be like, yeah, this thing I'm working on, I'm finding really difficult or challenging. So yeah, my views.
Yeah, I think I mean I'd echo those statements, but I think one thing I think is that we mentioned that entrepreneurs may feel this pressure or want to always appear successful. I feel like, unfortunately, I think in too many, especially in people in a different generation, the younger generation than ourselves, that is the mantra, like to always appear that you're on top of everything, and to appear as cool as possible, to appear as successful as possible, to appear as rich as possible. And I think they're always trying to have those sorts of comparisons and pretenses, whether you're as an entrepreneur, whether you're making a start in music or sports or just academics or whatever you're doing. It's never helpful. I think just trying to be as true to oneself is the best course of action, and also I think it engenders the best response from others, because it allows them to feel that they can trust, but it also allows them to feel that they can support when it is the right time. I think if we hadn't been as honest as we have been throughout the whole journey, and then became really vulnerable at this particular moment, I don't think it would have engendered the same response, because one would be like, yeah, but you've been going on you made it, you guys, we're done, and then what's happened? We were always kind of pretty honest, frank with how things were good. We always celebrate the wins, always celebrate the good times. We always also try to be as positive as we can. But just because you're being positive and optimistic doesn't mean you don't necessarily share what the reality of the situation is.
Yeah,
I think there's a don't conflate being an optimist or being positive with not being willing to kind of share the challenges. You can actually do both. That's where I stand.
If that is the mantra, then it's definitely a false mantra, because I mean, one of the things that I do a lot of training, personal coaching, workshops, and all that kind of thing. And especially for people who are employees and are thinking of transitioning to the the business space. And then they'll say something like, BB, I'll ask them, why do you want to go into business? They say, BB, I'm working too hard, and I think this will give me more time. And I try not to laugh. And I let them know, if you think you're working hard now, you are going to work 10 times harder in your own business. So if you're looking for an escape route, you are knocking on the wrong door. That kind of thing. I think, just like you said, some people have a glamorized opinion of what it means to be successful as an entrepreneur. Also, I think it's important, like you said, to be authentic and to have the right kind of attitude towards business success. I've discovered that a large amount of what eventually looks like success is actually a culmination of one failure after another. You get up, you learn, you try again, you dust yourself off, you try again, you fail, you get up, you dust yourself off, and you try again. A lot of it is failure. And Mary Kay Ash, who's one of my heroes, she used to say, we fail forward to success. We fail forward to success. And I know now that I've been in business for quite a while, I know exactly what she means. That you got to be comfortable with failure if you're going to go into business. You got to be comfortable with failure, and also kind of remove yourself from the actual failure. So the fact that you fail at something in your business doesn't mean you are a failure. So don't take it personally. Get up and try again and keep moving. Okay, so what are your goals for expansion?
Yeah.
Do you have goals for expansion? Let's start with that.
Yeah, we do have goals for expansion.
Because we want you to come down south. We're in South London, mate, and we want you to come down here.
Yeah, well, we also got asked to go to Portugal and open a place. So
and New York. There's definitely lots.
Oh, forget them. Come to South London.
So there's some hot competition. The weather in Portugal is pretty nice. Yeah, but I mean, the plan from the get-go was always to take what we do, our purpose, and share it with people across the UK. So just by the nature of that kind of statement, mission statement, we always wanted to be in more places than just one, and be able to kind of, many people in the UK as a starting point, be able to access what we're doing, be touched by our sharing of Nigerian cuisine and culture. So that's very much in our plans. As Ife mentioned, the challenges have been harrowing over the last few years, and so we're 3 years in this restaurant, our first brick and mortar restaurant next month. So we're very much in toddler stage, just making sure that we can be steady on our feet. I think once we are very confident with this, we will then look to scale and move, and also think about what is also the right approach for scaling. What is the right approach for expansion? Because it could be the industry, as I mentioned, the industry has changed. We've seen other opportunities. Bear in mind, we've been the same sort of space that we are still as a Chukwus as we are, not us leaving and doing something completely different. So we have to be alert to those and really think about it. But I think that at the moment, still very much the focus is absolutely honing what we're doing here, ensuring that we have a well-oiled team, ensuring that we have a well-oiled service, that the consistency, the quality is there. And look, we're only two months, if that, from or just over a month, 6 weeks from the end of our 6-week campaign, and that was a campaign to keep our doors open. So it's not like, okay, having done that for 6 weeks, we're now gone clear. We need to be sustainable in what we're doing. We need to have to sustain kind of the demand, and then once we, as I said, we feel a bit settled, then expansion is very much on the cards. It's the vision, but it's not the day-to-day strategy.
Okay, cool. I've never been to your restaurant, as you know, but I was doing some research and I was sending out some feelers to some of my friends and colleagues. One of my friends contacted me and she said, "Oh yeah, I've been there, and it was such a nice experience. It was really good that I've actually been again." So I thought I'd let you guys know that people are happy with the service that you're providing. I know she's quite sophisticated and she's got sophisticated palate and everything like that. So if she says it was good, then it's good. so well done. But I'll definitely be there as in the near future. I'll definitely be there. Now I'm really big on collaboration. So what kind of collaborations are you guys open to? Is it just the restaurant, or do you use the venue for other things? So like if I had a networking event, could I come and do it there?
So we've used the space has been used for private events. So a number of people have celebrated their birthday with us. One of our kind of like pride and joys is we had a couple who had their first date with us, and then they later had their wedding with us. A number of kind of the collaborations we've actually done have kind of been more actually taking us outside. So for example, last year we were doing the food at Soho House Festival. But EMEKA and I kind of both have, different ideas of organisations or companies we would like to collaborate with. Some from a food point of view, but some also more from this spirit of Chukwu's point of view, from whether that's Nigerian writers or like going down the literary route. So for example, for Nigerian Independence Day, we had a literary supper club in the restaurant where we had 3 Nigerian authors doing readings of a classic Nigerian text. I am also like a big love of love, and so I've also assisted in matchmaking within the restaurant. I'm always, when we get some more time at hand, I'm aggressively pushing to do some sort of dating event, collaborating with some sort of maybe dating app or something like that. Yeah. Okay, guys. So you heard it. If you're looking for a date, you might want to head down to Chukwu's. And I don't know, EMEKA, are you in a relationship? Can I ask that? We're looking for guys that can cook. We're tired of cooking, so we want to marry our daughters off to guys that can cook.
I cooked okra soup at home yesterday for. Oh,
honey, give me your number. Give me your number. I
cooked it for my missus, who's at home.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize you were. take it back. Sorry, he's taking, guys.
I'm very much.
Get myself in trouble. Okay, guys. So where can we find you? Where can we find you? Where is Chuku's? Where can we find you? Where's your restaurant? And where can we find you online?
So if you want to come down to the restaurant, we're literally just 2 minutes away from 760 Station on the Victoria line. And we are at Chuku's 274 High Road, Tottenham N15 4AJ. So just 2 minutes away on the Victoria line from 760 Station. On social media, we are at Chuku's LDN, so CHUKUS We are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, we're on LinkedIn.
Spotify.
Yeah, we're on Spotify as well. And EMEKA and I are feeling old, but we managed to get on TikTok. We're still figuring it out. So it's interesting there. But we are on TikTok. So that's CHUKUS LDN. As EMEKA mentioned, we're also on Spotify because we release playlists regularly. There we're just Chuku's. And then if you want to book a table to come down to dine with us, you can do so at chukuslondon.co.uk. So that's CHUKUSLONDON.co.uk.
Just to add, we are the world's first and only still Nigerian tapas restaurant. If you put in Nigerian tapas into Google, it's Chuku's.
It'll come up. Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you guys a bit more. And I'm so happy that, the 6-week charge went well. I hope that it will continue to grow. Also, congratulations again, and I'm glad that you're on the BB Means Business show for your 7-year anniversary. That's really great. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. Sorry we didn't get to do the book corner today, but that's because the conversation was so riveting. I just didn't want to stop it. So that's the reason why. But I'll be here again next week, and we'll be talking about my new book next week and be doing some reviews on that. But in the meantime, I just want to thank you very much for joining us. I know your time is precious, but I know it's been time well spent listening to Ife and EMEKA Chuku of Chuku's Restaurant. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great week. Go make some money, and don't forget, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life. See you next week.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.